In this lesson, we are going to be looking at subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions connect a main clause and a dependent clause. In the most simple terms, a main clause is a sentence or an idea that can stand alone and be understood, whereas a dependent clause is a sentence or idea that is hard to understand without another idea. Here are some overarching things that we will be looking at with subordinating conjunctions. Each of these will be explored in depth in this lesson. The first thing that you need to know is that subordinating conjunctions in German change the word order of the dependent clause. And this is going to look really wonky to us when we first get started with this. And here's why. The verb remains conjugated for the subject of the dependent clause. However, it is sent to the end of the clause. So we will have a conjugated verb at the end of our sentence or at the end of our clause, which is going to be very unfamiliar to us here in the beginning. The main clause and dependent clause are connected by a comma and a subordinating conjunction. With coordinating conjunctions that we covered last time, only some of them had a comma. With subordinating conjunctions, every single one of them has a comma, and then the subordinating conjunction and the following clause. And the last thing that we'll be exploring is the fact that the main clause does not have to come first. However, if the main clause is second, the verb and the subject reverse, which is the inverted word order. In this table, you will see the most common subordinating conjunctions. I recommend that you pause the video and take these down in your notes. They are als, bevor, bis, da, damit, das, ob, obgleich, obwohl, seitdem, sobald, solange, während, weil, and wenn. Again, these are the most common subordinating conjunctions, but there are more. These are some less common subordinating conjunctions. Again, I recommend pausing the video and taking these down in your notes. Als ob, als wenn, anstatt, daher, falls, indem, seit, sodass, soweit, trotz, weshalb. You probably recognize some of these words as prepositions that we have seen before. They are used differently when they're used as prepositions. For example, seit. We could say, since the movie started, I have been sitting next to you. That is a subordinating conjunction. Since the movie started is a whole thought. I have been sitting next to you. As a preposition, I've known her since last week. Last week is not a standalone clause, so it is a preposition there, since last week. Trotz would work similar to that, and some of the others anstatt that you would see in these tables. It is also important to note that every question word, also called an interrogative, can be used as a subordinating conjunction. The common interrogatives or question words, wann, was, warum, wie oft, wie viel, wie viele, wo, woher, wohin. And we will be seeing some of these in the upcoming examples. In those tables, you might have noticed 3 different words that meant when. So let's talk about when, and when. Or, in German, als, wann, and wenn. These 3 words are not interchangeable, and it is important to learn right away when to use als, when to use wann, and when to use wenn. Wann you've seen since German 1, the other 2 are new. Als is used for an event that happened in the past, generally just one time in the past. Zum Beispiel, ich ging nach Deutschland, als ich 20 Jahre alt war. I went to Germany when I was 20 years old. So that happened just one time. When I was 20, I went to Germany. This is your first look at a subordinating conjunction als ich, kicking our conjugated verb war to the end of the clause. Wann expresses when an event is taking place. So that could be a time, a day, a year, when a specific time an event is taking place. That could be in the past, but it would still be a specific time in the past that it happened. So zum Beispiel, ich weiß nicht, wann das Konzert beginnt. I don't know when the concert is starting. And our third when is then. And this refers to things that happen whenever something else happens. It is something that doesn't happen just one time, happens multiple times, and whenever this thing happens, this could happen. So zum Beispiel, ich schlafe, wenn ich müde bin. I sleep when I'm tired. So there wasn't just one instance in my entire life when I was tired. This is a whenever. I sleep whenever I am tired. Now let's start looking at some examples of subordinating conjunctions in practice. Our first Beispiel. A main clause that we have here is Ich gehe nicht zur Schule heute. I am not going to school today. Our dependent clause, Ich bin sehr krank. I am very sick. Let's connect those into a more complex sentence with a subordinating conjunction, weil. And we would get Ich gehe nicht zur Schule heute, weil ich sehr krank bin. You'll notice our conjugated verb in the dependent clause gets kicked to the end of the clause. Ich gehe nicht zur Schule heute, weil ich sehr krank bin. I am not going to school today because I am very sick. Another example of a main clause, ich ging nach Disneyland. I went to Disneyland. Ich war 6 Jahre alt. I was 6 years old. Again, that main clause can be understood without anything else going on. I went to Germany, or I went to Disneyland. Our dependent clause, if I just said I was 6 years old, people might be like, yeah, so I was 6 years old once too. It's dependent on I went to Disneyland, for example, when I was 6 years old. So, als ich 6 Jahre alt war, ging ich nach Disneyland. When I was 6 years old, I went to Disneyland. Another example, a main clause we have, Katja wird einen Flugschein nach Deutschland kaufen. She is buying a ticket to Germany. Dependent clause, sie hat genug Geld. She has enough money. Again, if we just heard this sentence, she has enough money, we don't have enough context to know who she is and why it matters whether or not she has enough money. We're going to put those together with the subordinating conjunction sobald, as soon as, and we would get the more complex sentence, Katja wird einen Flugschein nach Deutschland kaufen, sobald sie genug Geld hat. So Katja will buy a ticket to Germany as soon as she has enough money. We have our conjugated verb, hat, and it's going to get kicked to the end of the clause, sobald sie genug Geld hat. Things do get a little tricky sometimes. When we are dealing with separable prefix verbs, it is one of those times. So normally, a separable prefix, we know at this point, goes to the end of the sentence. We conjugate our verb, we kick that separable prefix to the end of the sentence. When we're dealing with subordinating conjunctions, we're kicking our conjugated verb to the end of the sentence, and we're going to reattach it to the separable prefix if there's a separable prefix involved. And it'll look like this. Weißt du, wann du morgen rüberkommst? Do you know when you're coming over tomorrow? If we had a standalone sentence, wann kommst du morgen rüber? When are you coming over tomorrow? Now that we've put this into a subordinating conjunction, weißt du, wann du morgen rüberkommst? Our kommst gets kicked to the end. We reattach rüber. A second example, solange du mitkommst, kannst du eine Pizza bringen? As long as you are coming, can you bring a pizza? So, solange is our subordinating conjunction. Du mitkommst, kommst got kicked to the end and reconnected. And this is our first look at putting the main clause second with the inverted word order, kannst du. So solange du mitkommst is in first position. Our verb in the second clause is going to come right after that first position, kannst du eine Pizza mitbringen. Those are all of the notes on coordinating and subordinating conjunctions that we have. I recommend that you watch some of the other videos that I'm going to link on our Schoology page on subordinating conjunctions so that you see some more examples of proper word order when dealing with subordinating conjunctions before you start doing any of the exercises. Danke! Tschüss!